Okay, moving on to the demo. I had no idea that you guys were going to be talking bandsaws as much as you did tonight. So that's pretty cool. That kind of makes a nice segue into, well, what if you don't have a bandsaw, but you do own a chainsaw and you make your blanks, but then I can't make a perfectly round blank with just a chainsaw. You can nick off corners with a chainsaw, but it is actually possible to turn a piece with corners on it. It'll still eventually become round. So I thought we do have turners that are just getting in here. They're trying to get their arsenal of tools built up, and maybe you've got the lathe, but you don't have the bandsaw yet. So I'm going to take this chunk of walnut that has only been cut with a chainsaw. It has not seen a bandsaw at all. We are going to turn it with a faceplate to start. Now, I've chosen to put the faceplate on this side, which is then going to allow me to create just a regular basic shaped bowl. If I was to put the faceplate on this side, I could do the same thing, and then I could work a natural edge bowl into it. This bark is really loose. It is going to come off. This piece has been sealed with a mixture of wood glue and water painted onto it. It's probably been sitting for over a year now. So I have some pretty good checking on this side, which again, I could take it over to the bandsaw and slice it off. But for today, we're going to say, I don't own a chain or a bandsaw, and I'm not going to fire up the chainsaw for that little cut. So we'll just keep turning and see if it goes away, or we'll see if those cracks go all the way in. This side doesn't seem to really have any checking at all. The front side didn't crack on me. So as far as sealing your wood, your neighbor's got a tree that's been felled, or you went over there and you helped them cut it down, whatever, and you get the wood. Do you seal it? Do you don't seal it? I've done it both ways, and I really can't tell you that one way is better than the other. I've bought some of the more expensive sealers to seal my wood with. I can tell you from my experience, they did not work any better than just taking a bottle of Type Bond or any other name, whatever brand wood glue, add water to it, thin it up, and paint it on with a brush. And it seems to do the exact same thing as all the expensive sealers. So that's sealing. All right, with that said, we're going to jump into it. This faceplate came with my chuck. This is a record power. The faceplate itself creates a mortise, so my jaws are just going to open right into it. Just saves me a little time, but it's no different than any other faceplate if it threaded onto the machine or whatever. So do I have any questions about anything so far?
I don't think so, Doug.
All right. With any luck, I'm hoping that when I take the faceplate off, I actually break one of the screw heads off. And the reason I'm hoping to do that is so then we can show how do we get out of that mess when that happens. And even if I don't get one to break off, I might just stick a screw back in there just to show you guys how we work through that mess. There's a few different ways to do it. Maybe we'll put a couple of different screws in there tonight and show some different ways to get one out when they do break off. Uh-oh, I lost my spotlight. We're looking at my wife's crush, Martin. I mean, that guy over there in England.
He's not answering.
He's calling me. Send a voice.
On my screen, Doug. Don't worry about it.
There we go. I sent him the voicemail. Okay. All right. So we are on the lathe now. Is that a decent angle for you all?
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Very nice.
Up. Do I need a tailstock for this size piece? Probably not. Am I going to use a tailstock? Yep, I am.
Yep.
I'd rather have the additional safety. Again, this is loose bark, so I am anticipating it coming off. Could I take the time with a chisel and just bang it and peel it all off? I can, but it's going to fly off, and it's going to probably be faster doing it this way than sitting there peeling it all off. But maybe you're turning in your garage where there's a car there and you don't want flying pieces of bark, and you want to strip it before you put it on the lathe. Otherwise, it's gonna go, real direct. Just stay out of the way. It's
Doug,
black
what kind of
walnut.
what kind of wood did you say it was?
It's black walnut.
Like, okay, I got it.
So I'm going dust mask on because my nostrils don't agree with black walnut very much. Even with this on, I bet when I blow my nose tonight, I'm still gonna get black walnut. And I'm gonna start off with my 5/8 bull gouge. And you're gonna see that even though this isn't round, we're just gonna work these corners around. We're gonna create it. We can go tenon or mortise. We'll decide that when we get there. But the whole idea here is just we're gonna remove the bark and we're gonna start curving these corners up. We do not have to have a perfectly round blank in order to get a bolt. Nothing's touching, speed is all the way off. Turn the lathe on. We bring it up ever so slow. Right around there sounds good. Now I'm lucky enough, I have a switch on both sides of my lathe, so I like to turn it off. Come over here, turn that one back on, and then turn it back on from this side. Let's see if we can make some bark fly.
We got little chunks flying.
And we're just roughing right now, so we're not trying to make anything pretty, no pretty cuts. But we have something kind of flat here to work with now. So I'm gonna bring the tool stock, or the tool stock, the tail. The tail. Tool rest, how about that? Tool rest up a little closer. Let me bring it around on this side so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. So we're just gonna start working this corner right in here. And I think if I set you all, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna bring you all this way. And where did the turn the camera around thingamabobber go? Right there. There we go. Now it's easier for me to see what you're seeing. Let's get power cord out of the way because that's just gonna get in my way. I want you guys to see how I'm gonna turn the brake there. And I do it without putting my shoulder in front of me. Can you guys see that all right? You see the chisel?
Yeah, but you're probably gonna cut into it as you're making your rotation.
I'm gonna wind up being in front of you, huh?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can make you taller.
Yeah, make it taller and then put it on the other, on the
Here.
north side of your tool rest.
Let's have you guys tilt your head. There you go.
That'll work.
How's that?
And once you start coming around, that'll work. And
Go.
then when you start coming around, you'll be able to see the full tool range.
Okay.
All right, let's give it one more test. And with any luck, this big piece of bark is gonna come off right at the phone and make you go, ah! That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good phone case. We'll be all right. I'm gonna do one more thing right quick. So because sometimes it's hard to see where these two edges are hitting, I like to make me a little mark wherever each one is at. That way I can see it on the tool rest in case I can't see my ghost line very well. So I just took the Sharpie and I made me two marks. So this corner and that corner.
That's a good idea. I do that as well.
So if I bring you all back around to this side now, you can see where we're starting to get a round ball here. Still have some corners up here. I could even, if I wanted, leave these four corners and that gives it a unique shape as well. Here's those cracks where we said it was checking, so they're obviously pretty huge. We're gonna be dealing with those, it looks like all the way through. They're pretty deep, and that's okay. We don't necessarily have to let cracks scare us away. You just have to decide, you know, what your risk versus reward level is. I am not concerned about this bowl blowing apart at all. But maybe this is too much for you. If it is too much for you, then just walk away from it. There's plenty of wood out there. You can always find you a piece that you do feel safe with. Now I'm gonna make a quick adjustment to the tool rest. Just so I can reach that corner a little bit better as I start coming around. We're gonna test. And I can do the same thing. I can say that corner is right about there and that corner is right about there. Those are about the same, close enough. So everything that I'm going to be turning is going to be somewhere between those two marks. And so here's another thing we haven't really talked a lot about, I don't think in a while, is body positioning. So I wonder if I do something like that. I'm just going to take a few slices so you can see what my body actually looks like. I think it's really, hips is what I always say. Everything's going to be my hips. So I'm here, I have a decent stance. I don't want my feet too close together where I'm all wobbly. I don't want to be so far apart that my height is all off, but this probably around shoulder width apart. Can you guys see my feet from this angle?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So again, I'm usually a little bit staggered. But this gives me a good stable positioning. And you'll see I hold it in tight to my lap. I use what I call a thumbless grip, meaning my thumb's gonna be here, not here. The reason I don't wrap my thumb around is because then it gives me another wobbly point on my lap. Whereas if I keep my thumb along the tool, or what we call thumbless, now everything is nice and tight against my side. Anchor it to the tool rack. And then you'll see me turn with my hips, not my arm.
That thumbless grip will eliminate the death grip that some folks are prone to putting on their tool handle.
And because I am expecting bark to eventually come flying off, well, I make sure my head is over to this side, if that makes sense. I'm not gonna stand here when I know bark's coming off. Then I'm just asking to get hit. Shield or no shield, I don't wanna purposely make myself get hit in the face. If I take one to the face with the shield on, I'm probably gonna be okay. But as I'm here, I'm working it and staying out of the line of fire. All right, let's put you back where you can see the tool do its thing. I think a few of us have mentioned this before. When I put my tool and I'm about to make contact with the wood or resin or bowling ball or whatever I happen to have on here, my eyes are here pretty much up until the point I make contact. Then on this particular slice, my eyes are really focused more over in this area because that's the ghost line and that's where I can see what I'm actually doing. I can't really see myself slicing or scraping or doing anything down here, but I can see the shape of the wood on the ghost line. So we're fairly round, but we're gonna have two flat spots. So 1 and 2. So as we keep going, we're gonna see these flat spots get smaller and smaller and smaller. My air compressor just kicked on, so if you guys say
Can't hear it.
I can hear you.
All good. We can't hear it. So
My tool rest is too high. Safety Sue, is there a way I can drop the tool rest with the lathe moving? Just kidding,
No.
that's from 2 weeks ago.
No.
Smaller and smaller, but definitely still there.
That is some dry wood you got there.
Yeah, it's a lot of the bark was making all that dust. A little smaller, that one's almost gone. Okay, one side's gone, the other one's got a little bit more to go. And
Look here.
there we have it.
Cracks
So
turning
no
out.
bandsaw, square corners are all gone. You don't have to have a bandsaw in order to turn a bolt.
Is your cracks turning out?
We may just be finding more. So there's some big ones. Yeah, there's some big ones. It's got lots of them in there still. Okay, so
Not
now,
structural.
yeah, it's still structural. So next question we have to answer. Do we turn a tenon or do we turn a mortise? People are going to tell you whichever one they prefer. I can't tell you from my experience whether one is better than the other. I've used both. I was doing a live demo at the art show this weekend with a piece of cedar, a red cedar, and my tenon snapped and the audience got to see something cool. I almost caught it, which would have been super cool, but I didn't. I mean, first thing, get out of the way, and I did. And I was like, oh, I can catch that, but I missed it. And but then I got to show everybody where the tenon failed, and the audience thought that was pretty cool. And then they went to my booth and bought stuff. So it all worked out. But tenon versus mortise. Either the jaws are going to expand and hold your piece on, or the jaws are going to crush it and keep the piece on. I have found, again, this is just my personal experience. I am not telling you it's the only way to do it. With green wood, I have found that I do prefer a mortise because with the green wood, the tenon seems to shrink pretty fast with all the spinning and the heat, and it's sucking the moisture out, and then it'll get wobbly in my chuck faster. But that just means you just check your chuck more often. You should be checking your chuck anyway, regardless whether it's dry wood or wet wood. But we'll pause for a minute and see if anybody has any questions so far.
Nothing in chat, Doug.
Okay. So then what do you guys want to go with? Let's take some input from the audience. You guys want to see a mortise or do you want to see a tenon?
Let's go with a tenon since you've got several cracks already. So
Okay.
structurally.
So this is all bark right here, and I never want to rely on bark for a tenon.
Nope.
So we're going to turn
Or a
this away.
recess.
Right. Well, we'll turn this away. We'll bring the bottom of the bowl around a few passes, and we'll create ourselves a tenon.
And
I've
you also want to make sure that you take away the bark on the bottom so you don't bottom out in the chuck also.
Oh, excellent point. Yeah, and when we make the tenon, let's bring that back up, Matt, just in case I forget. Let's explain what we're talking about, not bottoming out. But
I'll try to remember if you do.
all right. But at any rate, I've gotten pretty decent at sizing up my tenons by eye. And I think I might have learned this from you, Dave, but working off of the tailstock here, and this is just a little bit smaller than the size I want my tenon. I want to be just barely bigger than that. And then I seem to get a pretty good grip with my jaws. With the jaws, of course, we don't want them touching because then there's almost certainly going to be slop in there and the tenon's going to be moving around. But we don't want them so far apart that they're not really gripping anything. So we're looking for pretty close fit with those jaws. So I'll move you guys to that side because you'll be able to see me make those passes better, I think, from this angle. Something like that.
Yeah, so your live center, the standard live centers are approximately 1 11/16, and your standard number 2 school pencil is approximately 1/4 of an inch. And so on that rotation, that adds a 1/2 inch. So it puts you just over 2 1/8 inch for a perfect tenon for your standard 2-inch jaws.
So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work this angle around just a little bit better because it's still pretty sharp. So we're going to get a nice round angle here. We'll take the tailstock away. We'll get rid of all this garbage, and then we'll start forming an actual tenon.
Or I'll drop my glasses and not be able to see anything as I put my dust mask back on. All right, we're almost there, we're almost there. But we're not gonna rush, because when we rush, that's when we make dumb mistakes.
Amen. And they're even dumber on a demo.
Right?
Without fail.
Yeah, now I won't go cut my hand on that corner. We will remove the elbow buster 5000. This bad boy in. Like so. Okay, now we're dealing with actual wood. And I'll bring the tailstock back up just to show you. Again, at this point, this thing's not going anywhere. I don't need the tailstock, but it's just a cool little trick that, like I said, I think I learned it from Dane. I can't remember for certain. But
Yep.
I like it. Give myself some room here. And then let me pop you out of the tripod and give you the same view that I use. So I'm only tended just to be just a little bit larger than that bad boy. Mine, I've even gone just a tad smaller than I wanted to, but I'm not too small. Those jaws are gonna fit nice and tight around that tenon. And now we just start working the bottom of our bowl a little bit. I don't need to spend a lot of time on the bottom of my bowl when I use a tenon, because I know I'm coming back eventually to take this tenon off. How am I gonna take the tenon off? There's a few options. You can do it the really, really long way, and that's sand it all the way off. If you have cold jaws, let me see if I can put these in the shop. I can put the bowl in these cold jaws to hold it and then take the tenon off. And then the vacuum chuck. Let's see, is there any other ways that I'm missing? Sand it off, cold jaws, vacuum chuck. What's another way you could use to take the tenon off?
Jam
A
check.
jam chuck. Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to get this bad boy off. Or when we flip it around, I could still part it off and then slice it off that way. So there's, again, several different ways. Well, let's just go ahead and we'll shape the bottom of this bowl a little bit.
Or a glue block as well.
There we go. Okay, and that bowl should set flat. Okay, so Matt and I were talking earlier about ensuring your tenon doesn't bottom out. So let me grab a different chuck. Where do I have another chuck right there? So when I'm putting my tenon in the chuck, I do not want the wood to touch the bottom where these Allen head screws are, because it's always going to shift one way or the other, no matter how flat you think you have it. One side's going to hit the other, and then it's not going to sit in your chuck evenly. So before it bottoms out, you find that point in there and then squeeze your jaws together. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Okay. And the wife just walked in. Everybody say hi, Steph.
Hey, Steph, how are you?
Hi,
There
Steph.
she is.
You got
Hi,
the
Steph.
stuff. Howdy.
It's just the entire world. This is worldwide woodturners tonight.
Tell her it'll be published and she'll live in perpetuity now.
Yeah, you'll be on YouTube in a week. Love ya. Okay. So now this bowl is just rough. There's no nice cuts done to it at all. So how would I get rid of all my tool marks? Well, we're going to take some nicer cuts with a sharp tool. We're going to see how that works. We can also use a scraper, see how that works. And then when all else fails, you get the power sander out, just sand them off. At the end of the day, once the tool marks are gone, nobody knows how you got rid of them. They're just not there and your piece looks nicer. Well, let's say I don't get rid of all these tool marks. When I put a finish on there, it will only magnify those tool marks. You will not cover them up. I don't care how many layers of clear lacquer you put on there. It's just going to magnify them.
And it won't look like a feature.
No, unfortunately not with tool marks. They just don't.
Not a good feature.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you back on this side so you can see. And what we can do is I'll use the first kind of cut that comes to my mind. And then if you guys have any that you want to recommend or just have me demonstrate, throw it on there. Hopefully we call it the same thing. If we call it something different, you might have to explain it to me, but I'll probably know what you're talking about.
Well,
Hey,
hopefully you get it the first
hey,
time,
Doug.
then we don't have to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Hey, explain to some of the new turners about twice turn bowls, because if they're doing a blank and gonna dry it, that outside finish would be fine for a twice turn bowl. And then they
Yes.
could just go to the inside.
Yeah, so what we could actually take this thing off right now. Let's say this was a green bowl. It's gonna warp over time. We want to reduce the warping and reduce the cracking. So there's a few different methods out there. Some people will reseal this just the way it is. They write the date that they turned it, throw it up on the shelf. You can take it out once a week, once a month, whatever you feel like, and you can weigh it. When it stops changing weight, you've gotten all the moisture you're going to get out of it. Another option, you take this bowl
you grab some of your shavings, put some on the bottom of a paper bag, then put the bowl on top of the shavings, then continue to cover the bowl with the shavings. Again, you pull it out every week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. You weigh it. Once it no longer is changing weight, then you've gotten all the moisture out. The other method, I keep saying I'm going to try this, and I haven't done it myself, but I've seen plenty of other people do it successfully, is the microwave. I can take this bowl once I'm done, when it's at this stage, while it's green, stick it in the microwave. Very quick speeds. I don't think I've ever seen somebody do it for more than about 30 seconds. Pull it out, it'll be steaming hot. You got to let it cool off, and it's pulling all that moisture out. It's got to sit for like probably an hour, unless somebody on here has done it shorter than that. But in my local club, that's what they teach. 30 seconds, take it out for an hour, throw it back in for 30 seconds, let it set for an hour. And it's just pulling all the moisture out. And again, once it stops changing weight, getting lighter, then you've gotten as much moisture out of it as you can get. Does anybody have any other methods for their twice turn bowls?
I wrote up my microwave process, and it is in our on our website somewhere in the files section.
Okay.
I microwave always at 50%. And I have sometimes microwaved a piece for as long as 7 minutes at 50%, depending on how wet they are. In general, I put them in a paper bag and then put them in the microwave and microwave them. Paper bag helps control the rate at which the moisture leaves. It leaves the wood more evenly.
Okay.
But like I said, I've written that all up, and it's in a PDF on our website. And Dave's put it up there somewhere. So if you want to pursue the microwave process, it's all written up for you.
Yep.
Awesome. And like I said, I haven't done it myself, but I've seen lots of other turners do it really successful. So I just haven't found the time where my wife wasn't home where I could bring a piece of wood in the kitchen yet.
Yeah, rule number one on my microwave process is don't use the microwave in your kitchen. There's a couple reasons. Number one, the whole house will smell like wet wood, no matter how hard you try. And number two, if it does catch fire, it's really hard to unplug a built-in microwave and throw it out in the backyard.
So one of the guys in my local club, when he was telling us about it, his microwave was in his garage. He pushed 30 seconds, ran in the house to grab his cup of coffee, used the bathroom, came back out thinking the microwave's definitely off. Oops, he pushed 3 minutes and his garage was full of smoke. So it happens.
Not good.
Yeah, the other thing, Doug, you could use is desiccant beads.
Oh, that's the like rice, right? It's similar to rice where it pulls the moisture out.
No, it's little BBs, like when you get stuff packed in a shipment and you get those little packets of desiccant in a little bag. You can buy those by the gallon, and you can you can put your pieces in there. The desiccant will draw the moisture out. Once the beads get so much moisture, they will quit drying it. At that point, you can lay them back on a cookie sheet, stick them in your oven at 250 degrees, dry them back out, and stick your piece back in it again.
There we go. Another option.
Hey Doug, a quick question. If you're talking about twice turn bowl, do you need to flip that around and hollow it out to a certain degree or not?
I think what I've seen most is people will, if they're gonna turn it, they will turn it to, I think, maybe half an inch or so, and then put it in the bag.
You want it thicker than that.
Let's continue the conversation about twice turned after the demo.
Got it.
All right. So this tool's not sharp anymore, but I have another bowl gouge ready, so let me grab that one. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a nice, you guys can see that, let me double check. Yeah. I'm gonna just take a real nice, gentle push cut, and we're gonna see if we can get some of these tool marks to go away. And when I say gentle, I mean I'm barely gonna touch this thing. anchor, bevel, touch. Oh, that was a bad demonstration. And now we're getting shavings instead of sawdust like we were earlier. And this is really smooth. This is really rough up here where I sliced it. Let me bring it closer and see if you can see the difference. Just to slide a little bit. So you can see a pretty distinct tool mark right here.
Yep.
And that's kind of cheating because that's where I stopped my cut. So it's really more than the tool mark. That's more like a lip, if you will. But in this section here, you can see is a lot smoother than say that section where I haven't sliced it, where I was more scraping this bowl rough, if you will. Now I'm taking a nice slice. Yeah. And that's a little better. So again, is there any other finishing cuts you guys would want me to show with just a bowl gouge?
You want to do a shear scrape real quick?
You're talking this way, right?
Well, the opposite direction. You want to go, just like that, but shear scrape. But looks like you're not comfortable with it. Don't do it. That's no, Doug, that's not what I'm talking about.
What's this?
It's dangerous. Okay.
Was that more what you were looking for?
Well, it's close, but that's not exactly what I was aiming for. So don't worry about it. Do what you're comfortable with, Doug, please.
I'm comfortable taking directions from you.
I appreciate that.
Well, now let me just clean this out because I kind of roughed it all back up. So. Okay. So now we'll let's put this bad boy around and see what we got going on. So what I like also about this faceplate is if I did screw up my tenon, I can check it before I take the faceplate off and then either make my tenon smaller if I made it too big or slice it off and put a new one on there.
Weren't you gonna show them what you meant by bottoming out?
No, Charlie, come on now.
So. Whoa, I'm about to drop my shield. Okay. So let me get the light in there. Oops. So you can see where my jaws are not touching, but they're closed pretty tight. And then I don't know if you can see. Probably not, but there is a gap in there, and that's how I know I did not bottom out my tenon. All right, let me get that faceplate off. And let's see if we can break a screw head or two off. Okay, so they all came out without breaking because I'm using quality screws. I only recommend drywall screws if you want accidents and dangerous things to happen, but otherwise, screws not for drywall work much better. So let's say one of these bad boys did break off on me though. The method that I have found to work the best for me is I will bring my tool rest up here. Like so. And I'll take my Sharpie and I'll put it on one side of it. And then I'll go to the inside of it. Something like that. Those look more like contour lines. I've been teaching contour lines in my geography class. So now when this spins, of course, I'm gonna see those lines. They're gonna look like circles. Hold on, air compressor just kicked on. All right, I shut it off so we don't have to wait. And so what I like to do in this situation is then I will follow each of those lines with the parting tool. This is all going to go away anyway because we're making a bowl. And I get as close to this screw as I can on either side of it. Remember, there's no head on it because it broke off. And then I can usually grab it with a pair of vice grips, give it a wiggle back and forth, and it'll pop out. That way I'm not hitting it with my tools. Who has some other methods to get those out?
Use a plug cutter, Doug, instead of doing what you're doing. That's pretty dangerous.
Say that again, use a what?
Plug cutter.
Use a plug cutter.
I don't know what a plug cutter is.
Yeah, you do, because I showed you some last time I did a demo making jewelry. That's what I used to make the small earring pieces. It's what they use to cover screws with when you do flat work.
Plug cutter. Well, I'll have to Google it and then I'll go, oh yeah, that's what he's talking about.
So it cuts little round plugs is what it does, Doug.
Oh, and you're gonna go over it and cut around it that way.
Exactly, and then you just snap it off and pull it out.
Yeah, there you go. So there's another method. Any other ones?
Hey Doug, I have a question about those screws you're using.
Yeah.
Doesn't the faceplate that you put on, isn't it countersunk?
This one is, so I can use regular heads on there.
Well, if you
And
use the
countersink
regular
them?
heads, it holds the screw in place. It holds the plate in place. If you use the screws you're using on the outside, there's a chance that that could move.
You would be correct, except for I retapped these ones with these screws, so they fit in mine really well. And that way, I don't have to use a Phillips head or a hex head or a star head,
Oh,
and I
okay.
can use these ones. But yes, these screws did not originally fit in this faceplate. So these ones do fit in there really, really tight.
Okay. I was just
Talking
wondering.
about screws, do not use deck screws along with the drywall screws. Do not use those screws at all.
Yeah, they're
Hard.
just too brittle. They're gonna snap on you. All right, so at this point, it's just hogging out a bowl, which I guess there's probably several different ways to do that, but I don't even know.
For a walk.
6:14. Do you guys want to watch a bull get hogged out, or do you want to move on to something else?
Well, you wanna do can you do a little bit of hollowing and then talk about, the process of going down the bowl, incrementally. That way you prevent the flex on the walls.
Sure. Okay, so first thing is just clean up the front because it's all kind of rough. And that makes it difficult to work with, so. Here we go. Uh-oh. I did something wrong because that is not trued up very well, is it? I think when I was messing around with the screws, I twisted it in my chuck. Most certainly did.
It could have been off center turning.
My black
Who needs it?
walnut.
Who needs
some
who needs
birdwood.
Duxbury jig for that?
Okay. Let me get my face dressed again.
Hey, you're going to be feeling that walnut tomorrow.
Yeah.
But he's just dressing the face right now, making it flat.
Okay, now we have a relatively clean surface. We got a little bit more. Well, let me just go ahead and take that off too.
Hey, Doug,
Yeah.
before you get started, you wanna talk about tailstock security on your vessel?
Say it one more time.
You wanna bring up your tailstock?
We can, sure. And so this is definitely the way we would do this if it was one of the bigger, crazier pieces that I sometimes do. If you go onto my Facebook right now, you'll see a really big, crazy bowl I turned 2 days ago. Started off as a big square chunk of construction lumber. And so I definitely had to use the tailstock even at that portion of it, just because it was so big.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah, it was a monstrosity you had going on there.
It really was. I'm giving that away tomorrow, actually. A little bit more. There we go. Now we have a clean surface. So, but this corner right here is pretty sharp, so I'll just round that off just in case the side of my hand does touch it. It just burns instead of slices. Okay. There we go. So now what we'll do is, let's see, can you see the chisel from that angle where you guys are at?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So we're gonna find our area right here where we'll start bringing it down, and then, hey Dane, I think this is another trick I learned from you. Leaving my cone in there as long as I can while I bring this section down and then bring it down to get it out of the way and bring it down. So
Yes, sir.
let's give it a go. Again, I'm not gonna be nice about the cuts right now because this is not my final cut. I'm just trying to get things done. So these are not gonna be
Hogging it.
real.
Stock removal.
Give myself just a little bit more wiggle room. Yeah, that's about as far as I'm gonna get with the tail stuck up there. I just can't get a good enough angle on it.
Nope, that's fine.
So, well, I guess I can show this real quick. So it's, a lot of us have the carbide cutters. It just gives you a different angle that I can essentially get in there and really do the same thing. I'm just gonna turn it on in. And when I turn it on in like that, I can actually get a slice and not just a scrape off of it. There we go.
Yep. And so the purpose of leaving the center mass in on the bowl when you're turning one is to keep all those wood fibers deep down inside all together, and you work yourself incrementally down the walls of the bowl to the final thickness dimension, to a final finish, and then you don't touch that wall ever again. And then you clear off a little bit more room within the bowl being excavated, work that down another inch, inch and a quarter, cut out a little bit more towards the center to give yourself room to work. Eventually, you do have to bring the tailstock out of the way to give yourself room, but that will prevent the outside walls from flexing, because once all that material is removed, there is going to be resonation when you're not even cut, just with the bowl going around in a circle. It's gonna want to go oval in shape, and you're not going to get a fine cut. And it doesn't matter if you're using high speed steel, bowl gouge, scraper, negative rake, carbide, any type of tool. You go back up there and touch that again, you're going to get tool marks galore. You're going to get bruising, and you're going to get tear out, and you're going to be sanding forever, starting at 60 grit, according to a lot of posts that I have seen over the years. So that's the purpose of leaving that center mass in and only working incrementally down. And it doesn't matter if it's green or if it's dry wood. Go ahead, Doug.
We could probably take this wall even thinner. I mean, That is actually, that's way thicker than we should have gone, but I think we got the demonstrated the concept though.
Yep. And you,
Uh,
there's no issue if you going back on that. You got plenty of stuff there. It won't flex on you.
yeah, this, you know, I thought of one other thing that I want to show real quick. So with these big cracks like this, so of course there's always the go-to CA glue and wood shavings. If you want to spend the money, resin is a nice way to fill these in and you can get a really pretty look. But a lot of times when they're this big, something that I started doing is I'll actually use regular wood glue. And I like this just because it's really cheap at like Dollar General. But it's just wood glue. And instead of wasting all my expensive CA glue in these big ones, I'll actually fill a lot of this in with wood glue first. And then do the same thing, put the shavings in there and build it up some with that before I start using my expensive CA glue. And it saves me a little bit of money. And then the other thing is some of the bowls, like the one I was turning, if you go back to my Facebook, you'll see me do it. I was just getting a lot of tear out. And again, it was construction lumber. And I'll put the CA glue on the tear out when I'm sanding. And then while you're sanding, the wet glue stays in the hole and it grabs the sawdust, if you will. And you can a lot of times clean up that hard tear out that's hard to get rid of. So just another little trick there.